Welcome to Screens of the Stone Age, the podcast where scientists review movies about prehistoric people. My name is Josh Lindell. I'm a grad student studying Neanderthal teeth, and I'm here with...
I'm Dr. Kimberly Plomp. I am a bioarchaeologist. I study the human skeleton, health and disease, and evolution.
And I'm Dr. Ross Barnett, interested in ancient DNA and Pleistocene megafauna.
And tonight, live from the Stone Age, it's Saturday night. Or, live from New York, it's the Stone Age. I think that one works better semantically, but I think the other one sounds better. Today we're talking about Saturday Night Live. We've put together a playlist of YouTube clips of Saturday Night Live sketches that feature, as much as possible, the Stone Age, but to pad it out a little bit, I added some ancient history as well. So do we want to go through these just in the order that we watched them on the playlist?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, who wants to give us an overview of the sketch called British Cavemen?
Oh, I think that has to be Ross. He's the closest.
What? I feel if I hadn't felt picked enough on already with watching this sketch. I mean, this is just outright North American xenophobia, isn't it? So it's set.
I mean, I felt like when I was watching it, like if this wasn't British, it would be racism, right?
Yeah.
Totally. Anyway, so it's set 40,000 years ago, and it's got I think it's Brian Austin Green. Is that his name? It's a triple-barreled name. I can't remember. He's the guy that always does Trump. He's very good at doing Trump on Saturday Night Live. He's introducing a segment like a natural history style about British cavemen, and so we get Bao and Yang and Maya Rudolph, very talented actors, who do some kind of chav Stone Age accents, which is just, I think it's like, it's something. I mean, I like Saturday Night Live. I watch it online all the time, every Sunday when it comes onto YouTube, because we don't get it on telly here in the UK. But it's something they do quite often. Is they kind of go for taking the piss out of. I mean, it'd be fine if they said taking the piss out of the English. That'd be great. But they sort of just talk about the British, whereas they only ever do like Cockney accents or bad Cockney accents, Dick Van Dyke style. So yeah, their accents here are unintelligible, but they sort of sound a bit Cockney. We've got Chloe Feynman, who again another great SNL cast member. Also does this sort of Cockney cave person. We get talk about pubs and watering hole. We get introduction of Amicus McJaggerus, which is like a Mick Jagger caveman. We get the classic SNL level jokes about bad British teeth and stiff upper lips. And then I think the sort of punchline is that somebody says, "Bloody hot, isn't it?" And that's it. So I mean, I rated all 9 of the sketches, and this one just gets an okay. I didn't laugh very much. I felt personally attacked a little bit, but yeah, I mean, there's other sketches which have exactly the same kind of premise, but are just much better. So a classic SNL one that I really love and go back to quite often has got disgraced comedian Russell Brand in it, but I think it's called "De Do Do Drone De Do." Which is basically like a kind of Guy Ritchie gangster style film where they all do these really bad kind of Mockney accents, and it starts off like with real words, but just descends quite quickly into just total nonsense. But it's really, really funny, and particularly Russell Brand's accent in it is hilarious. But anyway, yeah, this one's not quite up to that level. All right, next one is I think possibly part of the inspiration for the Caveman show that we watched. Is that right, Josh?
The next sketch?
Yeah.
Maybe. Do we want to go into the detail? Do we want to nitpick these as we go through them, or do we want to summarize them all in one shot?
Yeah, that might make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not that much to say of each one, I guess.
Some of them there's a bit to say. So first of all, for the British cavemen, I wanted to point out some inconsistencies. The narrator in the opening sequence says 40,000 years ago, but the host says 40,000 BC, which is just a slight inconsistency.
Is that it?
Is that the only inconsistency?
No, I got more to say. I mean, I took notes so we can make a full podcast out of this. The child's father is drinking fermented grain at the watering hole out of a keg made out of a stone with a tap on it. But I thought we could talk about the earliest evidence of fermentation, because that doesn't happen 40,000 years ago or 40,000 BC.
No, it's after agriculture, right?
Yeah.
But though, for sure, like as long as humans have been around, there will have been piles of fermenting fruit that they would have taken advantage of, as monkeys and apes do today.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and birds, all kinds of animals do that. The earliest evidence of fermenting alcoholic drinks that I could see came from about 7,000 BCE in China.
So that's 9,000 years ago.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. I wrote 7,000 BCE, maybe it was 7,000 years ago, but it was Neolithic anyways. So I think to make fermented drinks, you have to be Neolithic, because
you have to have the wheat.
You have to be settled in one place. Yeah, you have to be settled in one place long enough that you can... Also, you have to have sort of pottery. You have to have big enough storage vessels that you can fill them with liquid and let them sit for, a week or so that they can ferment.
You also have to have grain as well, which is kind of... Although... I mean, there's nothing to stop you gathering wild fruit and sort of deliberately leaving that to ferment as well, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think that this evidence in China is a mixture of rice and honey and fruit. So basically all of the sources of sugar that you can get. What do we think about the genus Amicus mcjaguarus? Just taxonomically, nomenclature-wise?
What was the amicus? I don't get that one.
Yeah, the McJaguars part, understandable.
Sure. Yeah.
Amicus, I don't know.
Like amorous, maybe, because he was like peacocking, is what they said he was doing.
But they could have just left it as amorous, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they could have done Homo mcjaguarus, which would have made sense. But also, when they say Amicus mcjaguarus, they said the genus Amicus mcjaguarus, but I'm reading that as a genus and species name, right? Amicus is the genus, mcjaguarus is the species. Did you read it that way as well? Because it doesn't sound like Amicus mcjaguarus is a single word, right?
No. And I had the captions on, and it was 2 words. It was Amicus mcjaguarus.
But you know what? The captions for some of the other sketches are total garbage.
Yeah,
because
they are.
There was other sketches that are much worse than this one. I was trying to figure out what they were talking about, and some of them are not what the words they're saying, for sure. Last thing I can say about this one is at the end we have a sort of a throwaway joke where they're talking about the next episode. A stranger arrives from a distant shore, and we have the French caveman. But there was no shore between Britain and France 40,000 years ago, so that doesn't really make sense.
Good point.
Okay, want to move on to the unfrozen caveman lawyer?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, Ross, you do this one. I'll do the next 2.
Okay. I think the unfrozen caveman lawyer is part of the inspiration for the caveman series. So I think, or
the Geico caveman series.
Yeah. Did the Geico caveman come before or after this?
This is 1991. This is pretty early.
Yeah, and I don't think it holds up particularly well. I didn't laugh. In fact, I rated this one bad. But you've got an unfrozen caveman lawyer who is from 1,000 years ago. Is that what it says?
100,000 years.
Oh, 100,000 years ago. Okay, and he's a Neanderthal. It seems, based on the brow ridges. Although he's shown in a kind of background shot with the Lascaux cave paintings, which are done by modern humans. He's called Key Rock, not Mr. Key Rock.
Just Key Rock.
Just Key Rock. In this sketch, Rob Schneider appears and Dana Carvey, kind of well-known SNL alumna. But it's not very funny. I think the entire joke is that he's a lawyer that says that this modern world confuses and frightens him, but he does know, and then he trots out some nonsense about why his client is innocent. But yeah, it's just not very funny, I don't think. Although the makeup's pretty good.
Better than some of the movies, yeah.
Sure, he's got a big straight eyebrow. He doesn't look like a Neanderthal. That really straight eyebrow is really sort of modern human Paleolithic Pleistocene sort of feature, but Neanderthals had very curvy eyebrows. They had very rounded eyebrows.
Like the golden arches.
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean that's the brow ridges. Can we say it? We don't know. They might have had straight eyebrows over the top of that. Surely.
I suppose if they had very muscular eyebrows to fill in the curviness, but most of the reconstructions, there's lots of really good artistic reconstructions of Neanderthals lately, and you can really see the curvy eyebrow ridges that they have. I guess the joke on this one, it's about like this, I'm just an old country lawyer, I'm just a simple man, but I understand the law or whatever, right? So we're playing on that trope. I'm just a backwoods hyper chicken, you know?
It did remind me of Futurama. It reminded me of Single Female Lawyer from Futurama. That's the kind of Ally McBeal, let's find a weird law angle to make a sitcom out of. That's what it reminded me of. But now also I'm thinking of the hyper chicken.
And you know, Zap Brannigan on Futurama was written for Phil Hartman. So imagine if we had Phil Hartman on Futurama. That would have been amazing, hey?
He died before it
Phil
was
Hartman,
out, right?
the caveman.
Yeah, Phil Hartman's the caveman.
Okay.
And he was murdered shortly before Futurama began. So by his wife.
Yeah, it was sad.
Heard that. He didn't really. I think he's quite famous in North America, but his fame didn't kind of reach to the UK. Although we've heard of Dana Carvey from Wayne's World and Rob Schneider from The Stapler.
I think he was kind of like right on the cusp of, because he was in that show, that news radio show, and on Saturday Night Live. Yeah, so I think he was kind of on the cusp of becoming in more things, and then he got big shot.
You definitely know him from The Simpsons. He was Troy McClure.
Yeah.
He was Lionel Hutz. He has a lot of iconic characters from The Simpsons. What was I going to say about the frozen caveman lawyer?
The unfrozen caveman lawyer.
The unfrozen caveman lawyer. The thing that I like about this sketch is that most of our sketches about cavemen are about how primitive and stupid they are. That's what the last one was. They don't have, they just have grunting language, right?
Yeah.
But in this one, the joke is that everybody thinks he's simple and primitive because he's a caveman, and he's using that to his advantage, but he's actually just as smart and competent as every other human. And so he's manipulating everybody with that. I like that aspect of it.
But we have no knowledge whether Neanderthals actually had a functioning law system.
And how they would have done, how they would have performed.
Yeah.
Yep, that is a good point. All right, do we want to move on to skeleton?
Sure. So, as an osteologist, I guess this one is mine. It has that guy, the dad from Third Rock from the Sun,
John Lithgow.
Yeah.
The dad from Harry and the Hendersons.
Right.
Which we covered a long time ago.
Trinity from Dexter, which he was super creepy in. So he's an osteology professor. Osteology is the human skeleton. And so he's trying to teach a class of university students about the human skeleton. But every time he turns around to talk about the skeleton, because he has an anatomical one standing behind him, he screams because he's terrified of skeletons. And so he's having a hard time to do class because every time he turns around to show them, he screams. And then the dean brings him in and is like, you've been doing this for like, I don't know how many years. And this is still a problem. You need to get over this. And the guy's like, I'm just so scared. And the dean's like, well, you know, everybody has a skeleton. We all have one inside us. And then he looks at his hands and screams. And then the dean says, well, you know, a good way to, you know, get over this might be to use costumes, like make it funny instead of scary. And so then we go to the next scene. He's teaching his class again, and this time the skeleton's dressed up like a pirate. And so every time he turns around to give an explanation or to show somebody an example of a bone, he sees the skeleton in the pirate costume and starts laughing because it's so funny because he's in the costume. And then the dean gets called in again because, again, the class is not being taught, right? Because now he's just laughing instead of screaming each time. The dean comes in and then he sees the skeleton dressed as the pirate, and then he starts screaming because he's afraid of pirates. And then so the professor takes the hat off, but then the professor screams because now it's a skeleton. They put the hat on, and then the dean screams because it's a pirate, and then it go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the students are just sitting there kind of bewildered about what to do and probably wishing they could get their tuition refunded. And that's about it.
I laughed more at your summary than I did the actual sketch. I put this one as very bad.
Ross, the worst clips are coming up. If you didn't like skeleton, which ones did you like?
Actually, I thought they got better after this. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked the first one. Okay. The abduction one's pretty good. Rome Song was the best by far.
Rome Song is great. Okay, we'll get to these later. Let's finish up skeleton.
Even looking at it right now, like just remind me of what they are. It's 4 minutes and 40 seconds, and how on earth did that take 4 minutes and 40 seconds? Like it just went on for too long.
Mm-hmm. And a real waste of John Lithgow, who's usually
so
excellent.
good. Yeah.
I like this one. I thought John Lithgow was great. Every time he screamed when he saw the skeleton, I thought this one was hilarious. Anyway, what's interesting about this one is so much of the osteology stuff he's teaching is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a few mistakes he makes. He refers to the smallest bone in the body, the inner ear bone, as the cochlea, but that's not the ear bones.
No.
That's a structure inside the ear, but it's not the ear bones.
No.
All the stuff labeled on the chalkboard is pretty good. Most of what he's describing on the skeleton is pretty good. There's a part where he says something about thousands of bones in the wrist, which is not accurate. But pretty good in general. It's obvious that somebody knew something about bones.
Yeah.
One thing that I got into a little bit of detail about here is that he describes the femur as 18 to 32 inches in males and 12 to 24 inches in females. I had to look up to see, because we don't normally just measure the average femur length in adults. We do use the average femur length in infants for aging, because you can age an infant skeleton pretty consistently. But by the time you get to adults, there's too much overlap to use that for sexing. And we use the average femur length for assessing height of a skeleton. But I had to look this up. So 32 inches, he says 18 to 32 inches in males. 32 inches is almost a meter. And so if a person had a 32-inch femur, they would be like 10 feet tall. So
he must be meaning
that's not accurate.
Centimeters,
maybe.
But then that's like 12 centimeters is too small, right?
No, I found a paper. I don't remember which paper this is, but I'll link it in the show notes. And so it suggested that the average femur length for males is 43.7 centimeters with a range from 39 to 49 centimeters. And in females, average 40 centimeters with a range from 36 to 47 centimeters, or an average of 17 inches in males and 16 inches in females. So this range of 18 to 32 inches in males is just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and also, it depends if it's a cold day or not.
Where are those sound effects?
To point out, wah, wah, wah. The kind of, as Josh said, the kind of blackboard in the background, the terms on there are all real anatomical terms, and it's not like primary school anatomy stuff like the occipital, the mastoid, the glabella. I had to look up glabella. I didn't even know what that was, which is, for everyone listening, it's the part of your forehead.
It's a landmark.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's a little inconsistent, because occipital is the name of a bone, mastoid process is the name of a structure on a bone, and then glabella is a landmark, which is used for taking measurements. And so it's a little weird to have those three things combined when those are the only three things labeled. You wouldn't necessarily use those terms in the same context, but I mean, they are all real and they're all labeled properly on the skull.
I mean, but he could have been quizzing them and getting them to fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that one?
Moving on.
So the next one was quite funny. Again, I don't know. Is that Paul Rudd?
Yeah.
And then the other two, I don't know their names. I'm terrible at this. They're really funny, though.
Cicely
I like
Strong.
them. Yeah.
Cicely Strong was the one that went to the future, and Kate McKinnon was the one that went to the past.
To the past. Kate McKinnon, she's so funny. So there's these two people that get called into this like FBI or scientific thing or whatever, because they're the only.
I think it was NASA.
NASA. So they're the only three people who have ever had like a confirmable time traveling experience, and so there's these two people interviewing them to figure out what happened. And so I guess they were watching Showtime on their TV, and then something happened, and they got sucked through time. And two people, Paul Rudd and the other, and one of the women, I forgot her name again. They went into the future. Cicely Strong. So they got sucked into the future, like way far into the future, and they met these people who had these like really peaceful, really good messages, all about enlightenment and teaching them how to see the world and change their perspective of things. And then the other woman who got pulled into the past, she said 1 million years into the past, into what she describes it as, into like the middle of this pack of apes that were, if it's on the image from going from the chimpanzee to modern man in terms of like that linear evolutionary scale, she's like, they haven't even made it halfway. And it's just funny, like the humor in it is that the two people describing very different things. So the two people who went to the future are all, it was such a fantastic experience, and this happened, and it was all spiritually uplifting and everything. And then the other woman essentially just got like manhandled and assaulted, and she had she said that they'd all turned around and started rubbing their butts on her, and it was really funny.
I have to object. She didn't get manhandled. She got woman-handled.
She got woman-handled. Well, she got a lot of butts on her too. She had the dominant female come up and kind of make sweet love to her face and head, I guess. And
there's some great funny wordplay in
there's some
this
really
one as well.
good. Her jokes are just so funny. I can't remember any of them, but I laughed out loud.
So there's the alpha female that tries to make Kate McKinnon her girlfriend. Kate McKinnon's character calls her Curious Georgina. Yes,
Curious Georgina.
It's great.
And I forget they described it in some way, like they used a really nice term, and she was like, "That's not how I describe it. Have you ever had 50 bucks run up on you at one time?"
Yeah, when she first gets sent into the past, she lands kind of in a pile of mud, and in Kate McKinnon's character's words, her cooter and tooter were on full display.
Yeah, because her shoes and her pants stayed on the couch, so they didn't travel with her.
Yeah. And then when she gets returned...
Yeah, that's so funny.
It gets returned to Barry Levine. And the interviewer's like, "Who's Barry Levine?" And she's like, "Well, he's a kid who's not going to forget his bar mitzvah in a hurry."
Oh, so funny.
But this is a recurring kind of sketch that they have, or they had, when Kate McKinnon was part of the cast. There's quite a famous one. Usually it's alien abductions that happen to them rather than time travel, but they usually get abducted. There's a classic one with Ryan Gosling where he just cracks and just can't keep it together for the whole sketch. That's hilarious.
She was even laughing at some of her own lines.
Yeah, but it's amazing that Paul Rudd doesn't crack at all.
No.
She's
what a professional.
Grinding all over him, and he just won't crack.
And sucking his ear and everything.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
Yeah, that one was funny.
Now, I know that this is a stupid and silly sketch, but because it's the spirit of the podcast, can we assess where and when she actually ended up? Because she says she got sucked 1 million years into the past, but she doesn't know, because how would she know exactly how long ago it was?
Yeah.
She referred to it as caveman times, but it's something more primitive than we would classically consider cavemen, right? It sounds like she's describing something more like Australopithecus, right?
Mm-hmm. If you look at the kind of classic, and wrong linear chart, you tend to have like a chimpanzee, Australopithecus, Proto-Neanderthal, Neanderthal, Cro-Magnon, modern man, something like that. So yeah, kind of Australopithecus would be where we're talking.
Well, I mean, I'm pedantic like this, so she specifically references the March of Progress. She says that they hadn't hit the halfway mark, so I looked up what the halfway mark is, and there's 2 different versions of the March of Progress. So just for everybody listening, the March of Progress is that classic straight line from ape to human, but it comes from a specific book, and it's actually a fold-out page. So you have the short version, which most people see, but if you fold out the pages, you get an extended version. So if we're using the short version, halfway is in between Ramapithecus and Neanderthal. Ramapithecus is outdated. It's now called Shivapithecus, and Shivapithecus is not considered a human ancestor. It's considered probably an orangutan ancestor. So that's a broad range in between a basically non-human ape and Neanderthal. If we open it up in the extended version, the midway point is something called Advanced Australopithecus, which I don't know exactly what that means in this context, but it goes from Australopithecus africanus to robust Australopithecus to advanced Australopithecus. So it sounds like she's describing somewhere in Australopithecus territory, which would be more than 1 million. It would be between 2 and 5 million years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I successfully sucked the humor out of this funny SNL sketch by analyzing it too hard?
Well, that's it. I mean, Jimmy Carr, the British comedian, has a good line about analyzing humor, in that it's like dissecting a frog. Nobody really understands much more than when you started and the frog dies. That's what happens when you analyze humor.
Yeah, it's true.
The other thing I wanted to ask about this sketch is she talks about the alpha female, which is implying a matrilineal or a female-dominated society, and I wonder if we have any thoughts about that in Australopithecus or somewhere in early human ancestry.
Well, I mean, even when it's a patrilineal society, patriarchal society, so there's usually a dominant female, right? Like, so in a lot of the apes, even though the males might be dominant within the female, they have their own social structure within that as well. And there's usually a dominant female who's usually the lover of the dominant male, or at least the main lover, right?
Yeah, I guess, just saying an alpha female, it could just be the alpha male's partner, or it could be a kind of matriarchal society like bonobos.
Yeah, you don't know which one.
We don't have enough information from this comedy sketch to determine the mating system of the Australopithecines.
I mean, we can try.
It sounds very bonobo-ish, though, with how she went at her, right? A free love type thing.
Yeah, it does. It does sound very like free love bonobo style, so that could be what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Except I don't think that Australopithecus was structured like bonobos, because we have pretty high sexual dimorphism in bonobos or in Australopithecus, and we have low sexual dimorphism in bonobos.
Mm-hmm.
So species with high sexual dimorphism tend to be more male dominated, which is why we have sexual dimorphism, where the males are much larger than the females.
Yeah. It's unlikely that we'd have a pack of 50 of them too in one hug. I think that's too big.
I don't know enough about Australopithecus. I don't know what size groups we think they lived in.
I think
what size groups do bonobos and chimpanzees live in?
I think small family groups.
I'd also say that biology is not destiny. Just because sexual dimorphism is present in the bones doesn't mean that there weren't different groups of Australopithecines living in different ways. Just the same as how there's modern humans living in different ways, whether that's polyandrous, polygynous. All sorts of different kind of ways of being human. There's probably all sorts of different ways of being Australopithecine as well.
Yeah.
That reminds me of this story about baboons at this hotel in Africa somewhere. Have you ever heard this story about their social structure changing because of human intervention?
No.
There was this like large troop of baboons, which are male dominated. They have males control harems of females, so you have single male, multi-female, smaller groups, but they live in larger collective groups of many single male, multi-female groups, and then you have bachelor males that sort of live on the periphery. And so the baboons are very sexually dimorphic. The males are like twice as big as the females, and so the males control access to resources. They get first choice of food. They're living outside this resort where they're regularly raiding the dumpsters, and one day a whole bunch of tainted meat got thrown out. All the dominant males ate it first, and then all died. And then we have this huge power vacuum. So all the peripheral, low status males moved in, but instead of just taking over the existing harems, they restructured the society and became egalitarian. Wow. For a period of time. And the way baboon society works is males, when they reach adulthood, they leave and find a new group. So you have, gene flow between groups in that way. When young males would join the group from other groups, they would try and fight for a dominant position, because that's, how baboons typically work. And the society was like, nah, we don't do that here. And so new males coming in would shift to be more egalitarian.
Okay.
And then over time, it did eventually shift back, but it's an example of how you can see, like you said, social structure isn't written in genetics. It's flexible.
Interesting.
And totally, the circumstances are are key as well. That all it takes is one bad harvest or one good harvest for things to totally get turned upside down.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, we're going to move on then.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to talk about the new Mayan calendar?
You do the next two.
I'll do the next two. So
I love how I've somehow never had to summarize. Do you want me to do the Mayan calendar?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even give this one a rating. I thought it was so poor, which is a shame.
This is the worst one. Yeah,
it's
I
got
barely
so
took
many
notes here.
Like top class talents in it. Fred Armisen, Bill Hader, Bobby Moynihan, Andy Samberg, Charles Barkley, Kenan Thompson. I mean, it's just...
Is that who it was? Because I knew that one guy must not be an actor because he was terrible at acting. So it was Charles Barkley. He's a basketball player.
Yeah, he was the guest on that episode.
Oh, yeah, he was pretty terrible at acting. I'm sure he's very good at basketball.
He's very funny, though. He is, like, I've seen him in other sketches where he's actually really good.
Yeah, maybe it's the writing. This sketch was terrible. It was just all really stupid jokes about calendars, like, oh, this Mayan calendar is so stupid. Why don't you just call them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Mm-hmm. And, like, it's equally as arbitrary. It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, the idea with this sketch, I'll summarize it, is you have a bunch of people in probably some sort of stereotypical Mayan dress. I have no idea if any of the clothing is accurate whatsoever. Fred Armisen is presenting his new invention, which is the new Mayan calendar, and he's trying to explain it, and everybody thinks it's super complicated because they've never had a calendar before, and I guess he's invented the concept of keeping track of time for the first time. And everybody thinks it's too complicated, and then they hear a sound, they realize the sun is setting, and then they have to leave to go sacrifice a virgin, because I guess they do that every night. I don't think they sacrificed virgins in Maya culture, did they? They had human sacrifices, but it wasn't.
I think everybody just always assumes that it's virgins when there's human sacrifices.
Yeah. I mean, the balance of probability is that surely some of them would have been.
Yes.
Yeah. But it was often like people that were captured in war specifically to be sacrificed. And I don't know specifically about the Maya versus the Aztec. We should get Andrew Kinkella to talk about this one with us because I don't know anything about the Maya.
If we want to ruin his day, we should just send this sketch to him.
Well, if you look at the comments on YouTube for this one, almost all of them are saying that the prop that they have is not a Mayan calendar, it is an Aztec calendar.
Oh, jeez.
Yep, that is a good point.
They weren't like 100% pulling this out of their ass because Fred Armisen is talking about the different periods on the calendar, and he describes them as Muluk, Ajau, and Chawak. And those do seem to be real periods on the Mayan calendar, sort of arbitrarily pulled from a list of 20 periods. I don't even remember what length of time those periods referred to. Oh, the other joke about this is that the calendar ends at 2012, and Fred Armisen says that's because the world is going to end at 2012. And they're like, you're lying. You just ran out of space, right? And he's like, yeah, I made the calendar too small, whatever. And then they're like, won't people be scared in 2012? And they'll be like, well, I can't be worried about what people are going to think in 2012. So, I mean, I guess it's a joke that was probably topical at the time that everyone was scared the world was going to end because the Mayans predicted it. But in fact, the joke doesn't even make any sense because the Mayan calendar doesn't end in 2012. It's cyclical. It's a circle. The prop that they're using is a circle. So it's pretty obvious that you get to what we would call 2012. It's kind of silly that they're calling it 2012 because it's their calendar. They're not using our calendar system to describe their calendar, but it would just start over. So, I mean, no part of this lands for me. I don't find it funny at all. I assume, Ross, you said you didn't even rank this one.
Mm-mm.
Oh, and then at the end, they all leave to sacrifice a virgin, and then the calendar is a puppet that starts talking.
I was like, did I miss
out
something?
of nowhere?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense.
This one's a real dud.
Yeah.
So, who wants to talk about the Rome song? That's probably the best one.
Ross can, because that was his favorite.
All right. Well, so Rome song. I think this is the best sketch of the 9. It starts off with, so it's got Jason Momoa in it. He's the guest for this episode, and it shows various kind of vignettes of couples where the female partner is upset that her male partner is kind of looking off brutally into the distance. He's kind of a bit mopey, a bit sad. she can't figure out what he's thinking. Is he thinking about another woman? What's going on? And then Jason Momoa sort of breaks into song about how he's thinking about the Roman Empire 5 times a day. And it is properly hilarious. I remember when this came out, I sent it to a bunch of archaeology friends because I thought it was so good. And it does actually do a fantastic job of bringing in some real history, including stuff that's kind of that kind of myth conception, stuff that people think about Rome but actually isn't. So they talk about how the statues weren't white when they were originally made. They were marble, but they were painted and had clothes on. Talk about how Romans had communal toilets. Talk about how gladiators didn't often fight to the death, but they were long-lived kind of celebrity superstars of the day. They talk about their straight roads that they had. They talk about how Hadrian was hella gay, which again is historically accurate. And while all the men in the sketch are talking about Rome, the women are getting increasingly pissed off, and it ends up with Jason Momoa getting slapped by his partner, who tells him to stop thinking about Rome and think about important stuff like astrology, which is a pretty good joke. And then there's also a little kind of cameo with the son of the two characters, who isn't thinking about Rome, but thinking about dinosaurs, and just all the names of different dinosaurs, which is really cute as well.
It was
cute. I thought that was really fun. It was a really catchy tune as well. And Jason Momoa should do more comedy because he's fantastic at this. He just really sells it.
Yeah. I think this is based off those memes, or the meme was based off of this. I'm not sure which one. I think probably this was based off the memes, right?
Yeah, we talked about that meme about a year and a half ago when it was happening, where all these women on social media, on Instagram, were realizing that their husbands are thinking about Rome every single day. I'm sure we talked about it on a previous episode when that was new, but my partner Aurora came across this on Instagram, and she, like everybody else, asked me, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And I'm like, well, I'm an archaeologist, so I probably don't think about it. I mean, I probably think about it more than most people, but I would say, a few times a day.
I do not.
Oh,
but like, the song is, like you said, it's super accurate. It's doing a good job of presenting real history and also pointing out why we think about the Roman Empire so much, because every time I see columns when I'm downtown, all these buildings have columns. That's Rome. Every time I think about straight roads, that comes from Rome, right? A dome. The dome was invented in Rome. So every time I see one of these things, it's not like I'm just like constantly thinking about gladiator fights, but it's like I have this consciousness in the back of my mind that all of this stuff comes from ancient Rome.
Yeah. I can throw in a few things, which is that, so Hadrian was born in Spain. He famously built a wall just to the south of Scotland to keep my ancestors away from civilized people. But I've been to the place where Hadrian was born, which is called Italica. It's just outside Seville. It's fantastically well preserved. It's got lots of mosaics, and it's got like a mini kind of Colosseum for kind of gladiator fights and villas of high-ranking officials at the time. And it's definitely worth seeing. My sister is actually named after Hadrian, so she's called Adriana, which makes sense. She's half Spanish, half Scottish. And yeah, they're absolutely right that Hadrian was hella gay. His boyfriend Antinous, he I think he deified him. He kind of turned him into a god when he died, and was really obsessed with him.
Yeah.
Right, I think I've killed the humor in it this time. So that's
Kim, I just wanted to ask you, as the woman on the podcast, this meme is about how men are always thinking about the Roman Empire, but the song tells us that women are always thinking about astrology. How do you feel about that representation?
For me, it would be dinosaurs. For me, it was dinosaurs. I don't think of astrology really at all. So
I'm sure you probably think about ancient Rome more than you think about astrology.
Yeah, but definitely dinosaurs more than Rome.
I also think about dinosaurs more than ancient Rome.
Yeah.
There you go.
Several times a day for sure.
And then leading into the next clip, I think of Egypt and Cleopatra more than Rome. probably between dinosaurs in Rome is Cleopatra.
Okay, so do we want to summarize Cleopatra then?
Yeah,
Sure.
This is your one, Kim.
Okay, so it goes to Cleopatra, and she's got her 3 helpers with her, one of whom is her like makeup hair designer stylist. Yes, thank you. I'm so not
Who is
into that
Aquafina?
stuff. Yes, Aquafina. Yes. I really like her. And then she's got 2 other people who are kind of like the, I don't know, what do you call it? A peanut gallery, right? So they're like talking back about it, but they're not doing much. Anyway, so what they're saying to her, Cleopatra, is that she needs to put more effort into her appearance. That she's a queen. She needs to look like a queen when she's not doing her makeup, but she's just kind of wearing her hair normal and her just drab clothes. So she doesn't look like a queen. She needs to do better. And so it's pretty funny. It's all, like ancient Egypt, but it's all very like kind of Valley Girl, Instagram influencer type of stuff. Finally, the stylist is allowed to do her makeup, so she does it in like that Egyptian way with the kind of triangle eye makeup that goes from your eyelashes up to your eyebrows, and then they add like a headdress with the snake and stuff, like, so she starts to look like what we think of as Cleopatra. And then she kind of has a shitty boyfriend that comes in, doesn't really notice anything's changed about her looks, and that's about it. The funniest part was when she was arguing with them, like, she's like, I'm a queen, you can't say this about my looks, all this and that. And then they were like, well, like when you go into public, people are going to take photos, people are going to take things, right? And they're like, look at this selfie from last week or something. And they hold up a vase that has a painting of her on it. And she's like, oh my God, that's me. And they're like, yes. And she's like, delete that. So they just drop it and it shatters. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty good. There were some good lines in it.
Oh, really? I thought this was a dud. I thought this was
No, I enjoyed
funny.
it. I thought it was going to lead up to something more, but it was funny.
I liked some of the insults, like calling Cleopatra a hot Mesopotamia.
Yes. Yeah.
that was pretty funny. And are you a cat because I worship you?
Yes,
That's pretty funny.
And then they were like, if we were hieroglyphs, we'd be like this.
Yeah. I think Aquafina says, bury my organs in lots of little jars because I am dead. Which is, again, I found quite funny.
Yeah.
You're skipping over the ones that I couldn't understand, so let me see if you can help me with these. The first thing is when Aquafina comes in, she says, call me Euripides because I just came in here with a full play. The captions say a full plague. I watched this with Aurora and she heard a full plate, and none of these make sense to me. So I assume it's a full play because Euripides was he wrote plays, but I don't know what it means to come in here with a full play. To come in with a full plate, like a full plate is at least an expression, but I still don't know what that means. And then plague, as it says in the captions, doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I don't get the joke on this one.
It could be play, like as in she has a whole plan, like a whole screenplay. She's got this all sorted.
I agree with Kim. I think this is young person speak. This is like Gen Z sort of stuff, that if somebody says they have a full play, it means they have a full plan for how to do something. Maybe it's American football. Isn't that what they call kind of plans in American football? Is that a play?
A play, yeah. Yes.
Maybe, but I don't know why they'd be making a football reference in this sketch.
It's a young
We
people.
don't have any young listeners. All of our listeners are our peak is in the 35 to 45 age bracket, which is what we fall into. So I don't know if there's any young people listening. Tell us what this means. But this is not modern either. This is already a few years old, isn't it? So slang has been evolving pretty quickly. The other one where the captioning didn't help out is Xerxes says, "What's up, you?" I think he says dirty Horuses, like the Eye of Horus, but the caption says duddy horses. So it's obviously not duddy horses, but I think he's saying dirty Horuses, as in the Eye of Horus, which isn't really a joke. It's just, here's an Egyptian word.
Yeah.
I
think it's sort of kind of wordplay on Horuses. Like that. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Now I get it. That one makes sense.
Oh,
the closed captioning was throwing me off because it says duddy horses, which doesn't help. Well, okay, you like that one. I thought that one was maybe like second last above the Mayan calendar.
Okay.
There could be a bit of a thing too, because Horus is a falcon, right? So it could be dirty bird, which is a saying as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have two plays on it. I took it first as the horror thing, but
yeah, that makes sense though. I get that. That's a funny joke.
And it's Cecily Strong as Cleopatra, who was the girl that got transported to the future in one of the other sketches. But the kind of makeup play that they give Cleopatra is just the classic one that Elizabeth Taylor has in the film Cleopatra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one.
That kind of beaded wig and the
blue turquoise
Horus-like eyeshadow.
Yeah, Horus.
Do we want to continue with our ancient Egypt theme and talk about King Tut?
Sure. I googled this one a couple times, but Steve Martin's like one of my celebrity crushes, so you can.
This one didn't come on my list. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it wasn't available.
Yeah, maybe. I've seen that sketch though.
Yeah, well, again, this one shouldn't work at all because there's nothing to it. But Steve Martin is just hilarious. So just the way he's moving, his physical comedy made me laugh at this one. But I mostly didn't get it. So maybe I'll summarize this one. Steve Martin shows up on screen wearing some like ancient Egyptian style clothing. And he's talking all serious about how he wrote this song to honor King Tut. And he says, I tried to use the ancient modalities and melodies, and hopefully we can learn something together. And then he goes in to sing this really goofy song in like the 12-bar blues about King Tut. For a certain period of time, it switches to disco and then back to 12-bar blues. And that's all there is to it. He's got a backup dancers who are all dressed like Egyptians. At some point, a sarcophagus opens and King Tut, all dressed in gold, does a saxophone solo. And from what I understand, this was 1978. This is probably directly in reference to a King Tut exhibit that was going on at the Metropolitan Museum of Art from 1976 to 1979, I think. So I think that's what this is about. It's probably topical. But all the stuff he says about King Tut, most of it was nonsense. And some of it didn't make any sense. So he says King Tut was buried with a donkey. I couldn't find anything about that. He says he ate a crocodile. Do these mean anything to you?
He probably did eat a crocodile at some point, but I don't know.
I Googled these things, and the top hit for King Tut ate a crocodile is a post from r/Ask Historians, where someone was asking in the Steve Martin sketch from SNL, he said King Tut ate a crocodile. Is that true?
And what do they say?
They said the Egyptians were not very particular about what kind of game they hunted, so it's possible that they ate crocodiles, but there's not really a lot of good evidence for it.
There.
So I don't know what that's reference to. The refrain is King Tut, born in Arizona, moved to Babylonia. I have no idea what that means.
I don't think it means anything. I think it just was trying to rhyme. They also says, could have won a Grammy, got buried in his jammies. That's the line I remember.
It's like this. Maybe that's the joke. Maybe the joke is just entirely that he's at the beginning claiming he wrote this serious song using the ancient modalities and melodies, and then it turns into just a song about nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The other thing is that during the saxophone solo, he brings in a blender and offers it at the feet of King Tut, and I have no idea what that's about.
I don't know.
We need to get an ancient Egypt expert to see if there's any.
We need to get Steve Martin on. That's what we need to do.
Oh, yes, please.
That would be great. Get Steve Martin to play us a banjo version of our intro music. The one line that I really like in this song is that he gave his life for tourism. I think that one's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's on the nose.
Shit.
Do we want to move on to Brutus?
Sure. This one was funny. It went on for too long, but it was funny.
Yeah, I gave this an okay. But I find it went on for too long and it was quite uncomfortable. But
it got uncomfortable, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess it happens in Saturday Night Live. So I'll do this one. It's that kid from
Jonah Hill,
yeah. And so he's a scientist, and he has brought to life this caveman, Australopithecine, whatever, right? Early hominin. And so he is showing his discovery, showing his creation to reporters, hoping that this is going to be a huge scientific breakthrough. He's going to become rich and famous and all this and stuff. And so not only that, but he's also taught this creature how to speak. And so that's a big thing too, is not only is this creature alive, but he can speak. And so he's like, and the reporter's like, oh, that can't be true. That can't be true. And he's like, yeah, well, here, here's proof. And so he tells the guy the creature to speak. And then he starts talking about how Jonah Hill makes him have sex with him, and how he makes him, Jonah Hill dresses up like a schoolgirl and they go to a hotel and he makes him do this and that. And he just gets more and more uncomfortable. And at first Jonah Hill's just like, no, he's misunderstanding things. He's whatever. It's his word against mine. And it goes on for really long, and the descriptions get really uncomfortable, and it gets really kind of like, oh my goodness. And then, it was funny. There was something that he said to him that was so uncomfortable. And then the reporter's like, did you actually say that? And Jonah Hill's like, I don't know. I say things. I don't know. He just kind of gives up.
I wrote that down. He said, so Brutus says that Jonah Hill said they could make a baby together. And the reporter says, did you say to Brutus that you could make a baby with him? Jonah Hill goes, I said a lot of things. It's so wrong.
It's so funny.
And then he ends it by saying, surprisingly, this isn't the worst presentation I've ever given.
Yeah. Ouch.
Oh, it's funny.
Okay, here's the question I have about this one. Kim, you described him as being some sort of resurrected Australopithecus or something, and that is sort of suggested by the fact that there's posters on the wall there's an image of a drawing of stone tools, which I believe comes from a book called The Outline of History by H.G. Wells.
All right.
Beside that, there's a photo of Upper Paleolithic bone harpoons, and then behind the reporters, it's a little hard to see, but there is a photo of the La Chapelle aux Saints Neanderthal skull. And so the room looks like it's paleoanthropology related, but, and the character as well, the costume is very good, but it doesn't look like a modern ape. It looks like some sort of Australopithecus, but they never say that in the sketch. They just describe it as an ape. They say, I taught an ape to talk. They don't say, I discovered a missing link and also taught it to talk. He just says,
I just filled in the blanks
to talk. But I did too, and then on rewatching it, I'm like, is this supposed to be a missing link, or is this just a chimpanzee that he's taught to talk? And it's not really clear to me, so I thought it was a little confusing in that way.
Right.
I don't know, what are our thoughts? Is it a Australopithecus that he has somehow discovered or brought to life and taught how to talk, or is it just a chimpanzee that he taught how to talk?
I mean, it doesn't look like a chimpanzee at all, but it's Saturday Night Live. I don't know how much effort they would have put into the costume, right?
Yeah, I kind of assumed that it had been kind of resurrected, maybe William style, or kind of cloned from something. That's why he had a lab coat on.
Yeah.
But they never actually say that at all. They just say, I'm giving a press release because I taught an ape to talk, and that's all he says. So I feel like if we didn't see those posters in the background that we know are Paleolithic, would we have had that thought?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think so, because he doesn't look like, he's just a man with a lot of hair, right?
Yeah, they do have, I'm pretty sure, better kind of ape costumes like gorilla and chimp ones that they could have access to if that's what they wanted to portray him
you think
as.
so, yeah. Well, anyway, any more thoughts about that one?
No, that was
just
funny.
Jonah Hill did a great job not breaking and staying like super serious all the way through this.
And looking uncomfortable.
That's acting.
Yeah, it was funny.
Okay, so our last sketch then is Mr. Peepers.
Bad.
This one I didn't get.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah.
I love this one. This one,
what?
You know what I'm discovering? I just like the physical comedy. I thought the physical comedy was so... Chris Kattan is so funny in his movements, the way he's just constantly moving around. I love this one. I thought this was hilarious.
Okay, you just...
Well, I'll summarize it then.
Beginning to understand our film choices over the past couple of years now, I think.
What, that I just like watching bad stuff and making people watch bad stuff?
Yeah.
Are you discovering that after 4 years? I'll summarize this one. It's another sort of press conference in some sort of mystery science lab where...
No, it very clearly says it's the Oxford University Department of Paleontology.
Okay, Oxford University Department of Paleontology, where Will Ferrell, professor, what's his name? Something from Copenhagen? Where did they say he was from?
Yeah, he had some kind of foreign accent.
Yeah,
Attempt.
Will Ferrell doing some sort of vaguely European accent is announcing his new discovery to Oxford University, and he says he has found a living specimen of Eosimius, the earliest known primate that led to monkeys and humans, discovered in China, and he brings in Chris Kattan with big eyebrows and fake ears, wearing red shorts, and puts him on the table, and he's describing this to Chris Parnell. And so as he's trying to describe his discovery, Chris Kattan is just acting very frantic and monkey-like on the table, and he's throwing beakers all over the place and smashing them, and then Will Ferrell gives him an apple, and he starts eating the apple and spitting it in Chris Parnell's face. And then they say they've also discovered another adult specimen of Eosimius in the Amazon, and they bring in the Rock, who they've discovered is actually the father of Mr. Peepers. They call him Papa Peepers. And then Mr. Peepers is scared of his father, and the Rock is also acting like a crazy monkey. And then they both start humping Chris Parnell, and then Chris Kattan jumps on his back, and they smash through the wall and leave the room. And Will Ferrell holds up an apple and says, "This is a great day for science," or something like that. And nobody else is laughing, but I thought this was hilarious because just Chris Kattan smashing beakers and spitting apples in Chris Parnell's face. I just couldn't stop laughing. And the Rock's ear falls off while he's humping Chris Parnell.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's hilarious. This is one of the better ones. Do we have any academic thoughts about this one?
Just that you're wrong. Academically wrong. Why is he called Mr. Peepers? I mean, I don't find Chris Kattan very funny. That's maybe my problem.
I don't know in general if I find him funny, but in this sketch, just the way he's moving, just the physical comedy of it, I found very funny.
Yeah, I mean, Will Ferrell's quite amusing usually, but yeah, this sketch just seems to be finding it funny that people are spitting apple at each other, and that one of them is the Rock.
That is funny, isn't it?
The apple part was the funniest.
Isn't it funny to watch the Rock spit an apple at Chris Parnell?
What just occurred to me just now is that Mr. Peepers has like red shorts and like braces
Suspenders?
on. Yeah. Isn't that also the costume that Brutus is wearing in the previous sketch?
Kind of, not exactly. I think exactly. Brutus has like shorts and suspenders, and Mr. Peepers is almost more like red lederhosen, sort of like shorts with like a built-in straps. But yeah, very similar. Yeah. I guess SNL has an idea about how you should dress your missing links when you find them.
Yeah, and that's in red lederhosen. Yeah, I don't think we have anything to say about this except that. I think we've seen films where people say this is a great day for science, just like Will Ferrell does.
We can comment on Eosimius. Eosimius is a real fossil primate. It is somewhere close to the base of the monkey and ape clade, if I'm not mistaken. It's like Eocene, around like 40 million years ago, I think, right? It is also found in China, and they say Mr. Peepers was found in China, so that's accurate. Although one thing that didn't make any sense to me is they found Mr. Peepers, a living Eosimius, in China, and then they found Papa Peepers, his actual biological father, in the Amazon. That didn't make any sense.
Yeah, well
maybe he moved.
He went out for smokes or what?
Yeah. He had some wrestling opportunities in South America with the Lucha Libre franchises that weren't available in China. Eosimius, yeah, a real genus, but meaning dawn monkey, which is quite appropriate, I guess.
But why, like, this is a thing, like a misconception in the public. You're not going to find a living example of the missing link because Eosimius it branched into all the other monkeys and apes that we have today eventually. But that specimen didn't, keep going without changing for 40 million years. Even if branches had branched off the side of it, its lineage would keep changing, so it would be something totally different. So all these movies where we find a missing link that's still alive, none of them make any sense, because it's sort of this assumption that evolution leads to humans and that you can have the main lineage stay without changing and without evolving. But nothing ever doesn't evolve. Everything's going to evolve given time, right?
It's the teleological fallacy that we've talked about before, the idea that the end point of evolution is humans and that everything else is a halfway house. The problem is that there is no missing link, because everything is a link to something else. I mean, it's possible that we could find an unknown hominid, a kind of orang pendek or a missing Flores hobbit or something. They'd have changed since. I mean, these are orang pendek is a kind of cryptozoological Yeti type, Sasquatch type thing living in Indonesia. Homo floresiensis was a real member of the Homo genus that was around until about 12,000 years ago. So, I mean, potentially we could find something that fits those parameters, but they wouldn't be a missing link. They would just be another new species that we haven't discovered before.
Mm-hmm. We talked about these orang pendek and Homo floresiensis on our episode on The Cannibal in the Jungle with Matt Tosheri.
Yeah, where they had like a living oral history of creatures living in the jungle, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, any more thoughts about Saturday Night Live? Now, all of us seem to hold Saturday Night Live in high regard and think it's very funny, but going through most of these clips, most of them are not great. I think maybe we have a confirmation bias where we remember the really good, iconic episodes, and it's a live weekly show, so there's going to be a lot of duds.
Absolutely. That's any kind of sketch comedy, there's always going to be hits and misses.
Yep.
But the hits are really, really good. And even the misses sometimes have, famous people in them that are doing something you don't usually see them doing. Though I think SNL at the moment is as good as it's ever been. I think it's got some really good actors in it. Kenan Thompson, who's been in it forever, is always brilliant. The Brian Austin Green, the guy that plays Trump, is fantastic as well. There's some really good sketches week after week.
I was just going to say that this, we've watched, what is it, 3 years worth of movies. Some of them are comedies of this topic. I think it's also just really hard to make these topics funny in a way that's not just either overdone with all the cliches or just kind of boring, right? I think maybe this topic just might not be very funny.
The Stone Age cavemen just aren't funny at all.
I don't know. I mean, no one's been able to make them funny, right? Like that Geico. I guess the Geico commercials were funny because they were short, right? But as soon as they tried to make that into that, as soon as they tried to make it into the sitcom, it wasn't funny anymore, right? So I don't know. I don't know how to make cavemen funny. If we could figure it out, we'd be so rich.
But you know what? Our gold standard is Encino Man, which is a caveman comedy, which we all agree is very funny.
Yes, that's true.
Obviously, it's possible.
Right.
But what other comedies have we done that are actually good?
None? Oh, Harry and the Hendersons was good. That was a comedy.
Yeah, that's a Bigfoot, though. It's not really caveman.
No.
I mean, it's not caveman at all. Kind of missing link-ish. We did the missing link.
That was funny.
But it's also about Bigfoot.
Yeah. So maybe that's the secret then. Don't do it about caveman, do it about Bigfoot.
Do you have questions, comments, or movie requests? We want to hear from you. Find us on Blue Sky and Facebook at SOTSA Podcast. Send us an email to screensofthestoneage@gmail.com or visit our website at screensofthestoneage.com.
I also have to quickly point out that I've been calling the SNL guy by the wrong name all the way through. The guy that plays Trump, that was also the producer of the British Caveman sketch, is James Austin Johnson, not Brian Austin Green. So I was thrown by it. 3 names, one of which being Austin.